What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to the 2023 WWE SummerSlam Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show, coming to you from the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, is Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
So, Callum, just ended. Before we get into this, we're going to start talking before we read off anything in the live chat and stuff. General thought. Are you feeling happy, sad? In the middle, thumbs up, thumbs down.
I'm just tired.
Yeah, I mean, what time is it there? Like 5?
Yeah, 20 past 5 now.
Whew.
And yeah, pretty underwhelmed. Probably is the biggest takeaway.
I will say right now, I am the lowest on this that I was the entire night. I was much higher on it earlier before they did some stuff that ended up just being like, all right, I'm a little bored. I'm a little winded. I'm a little tired. A lot of those kind of things. But we will get into all the specifics here and there one way or another. Talk about the positives and the negatives, all the match outcomes, recap all that stuff. Also want to say hi to everybody in the chat that's on there right now. I see Peter. I see Chris. I see Adam. Got more people funneling in too. What's up, everybody? Leave your comments there. And if you're listening to this after the fact and not able to be in the live chat, then leave your comments down below on the normal YouTube side of that. Brandon's in the chat too as well. What's up, Brandon? And while you're over there on YouTube, if you are on YouTube at the very least, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, hit the thanks button, join the membership tiers over there on the Darkcast, Pick Your Poison, all that stuff. If you're listening to this outside of that and you want to do that, there's the Patreon. Pick up some merchandise on TeePublic and Redbubble and continue on with all that other good stuff. Don't need to really plug too many things there. I want to get into the pay-per-view here, but let me read a couple other things from the chat right now before we get too deep into this. Peter says, this show was so long I aged during the main event. Yeah. Chris saying, I enjoyed the event, but I'm 100% sour on Roman. Without interference, as Roman loses to Jey, Cody, Sammy, and Drew. These copy and paste matches are so tiring. Really happy for EO. Let's see. Roman hasn't won clean in a long time. Pop for EO too. Hard to believe him as dominant champion when he can't straight up win. Yeah, we're going to get into that as well as some of the other things here. So start at the top of the card. Nothing going on with the pre-show, as per usual. But they opened the night with Ricochet versus Logan Paul, partially because Logan Paul apparently needed to get on a jet, fly out to go, I don't know who Jake Paul's fighting, but, do an appearance with that whole thing. But I thought that this was a good opener. Now, I know that you're not as big on this because you were saying that you were sort of meh on it. What was kind of meh about it to you?
I don't know. You kind of feel like with two people that are as athletic as they are and have the athleticism have the athleticism, and were kind of like talking about how they wanted to get this viral moment in it. I just thought it was just a bunch of, nothing happening in between a couple of big spots. Like, I would have thought, go out there, go high octane. This is the opening match, just put out a load of really cool stuff and get the crowd hyped in the beginning, but they decided to tell more of a story, which, is fine, but it's not what I'm here to see these two wrestle each other. I don't care about extending this beyond SummerSlam. I just thought, one and done, get it out of the way, but no, they had to drag, and that's just the theme of the entire show. It dragged longer than it needed to. These two don't have to have a fucking match for 18 minutes. It should be sub 10, and I want to see all the cool stuff that you can do. Not yeah. And I will say as well, for the first half of the show, I was also watching Collision and having far more fun watching that. So
what happened on there? I didn't even look at the results yet.
During this one, it was when this match was going on, there was the tag title match was happening between FTR versus Big Bill and Brian Cage, which I had more fun watching. To be fair, that match was already halfway through by the time this match even started, because the entrance is taking as long as they do. So
it's a recurring theme. Yeah. See, I feel like this match had more quantity over quality for these moves, but I can agree and I can disagree on different things that you were saying before. I think what I wanted out of this match they didn't quite give me as far as nothing is really like that standout viral moment. There's nothing that I wrote down I didn't write down anything for my notes for the end of the year on this. No positives or negatives. No like, great ring attire from somebody or like a really bad botch or anything. I was hoping that they would do something that was going to be like a wow moment, like from WrestleMania or from the Royal Rumble. And they did a lot of good things, but they didn't do any one great thing. And I liked the match. I thought that it was a really solid opener match. And then, it's one of the bigger highlights of the night for me overall, as far as just like pure quality from bell to bell for the segment. But I don't feel like it really lives up to what it should have been. This might have gone better if they had something in mind to do one big spot that everybody talks about, and then the rest of the match was just a regular match, rather than to have a good regular match.
Yeah, it's pretty much my perspective. There's nothing wrong with the match. The match was fine. Just like with pretty much all the matches, what we say on this, like just expected more, and it didn't deliver that. These two can do some really cool stuff, and I think they only give us a taste of what it is. And maybe that's because they are seemingly building for a rematch because of the screwy finish. But yeah, I just think that you want to see more from these two, and they clearly can do more than what they did. Like you had the spots like the buckshot lariat to the outside, and the like a few flying high spots and springboards and like shooting star presses and stuff like that. So I'd say like it's not like it isn't impressive. It's just like I've seen better from both of these two. So
all the moves that they did throughout here were good too. Like, there was a great moonsault into a tornado DDT. There was the Spanish fly things on the outside. Springboard moonsault sequence was good. The frog splash from Logan Paul was good. Like all their moves and everything, they nailed them, and they were all really good. This would be a great, if this would have been like on an episode of Monday Night Raw, people would be going nuts, I think. And opening SummerSlam and all, I do think that people are overall going to be a little bit like, all right, well, what else could you have given me? Which sounds really like, come on, man, they gave you a great match, but I don't know. I'm not going to remember it as much as I thought that I was going to, which is disappointing.
I think it also not only the fact that like I feel it fell short of what it could have been, which is the case with a lot of other matches. Same thing with a lot of other matches. It felt really hollow.
Yeah, I could see that being a good way to phrase that, because ultimately, like it doesn't matter who wins. It's not for anything. Logan Paul wins through using brass knuckles, so that's the sort of like, he didn't really win, even though he did win. He gets the win for the record book, so that helps him out a little bit, but that's a way to protect Ricochet. So maybe it would have helped too if the guy that handed him that stuff was anybody that anybody could actually notice, instead of it just being some guy that's supposed to be one of his buddies or something. Because maybe that's a little on the blander side too, to just, hey, that guy supposedly knows him and moving on, But I thought it was a good match, a good opener, and I would take that over the main event. I'll say that. To a lot of people, I'm sure, are going to be like, what are you talking about? Thank you to Chris in the chat for the super chat. Pay-per-view recaps always make me feel better about the events overall. Curious, what is it about it? Is it because we're just going through it and trying to have fun recapping it, or is it our opinions, or what? But definitely appreciate that. And I see Marco's in the chat now too. What's up, Marco? Let's see here. Peter says, my problem was the guy gives him the knuckles, didn't distract the referee, so he looks stupid. Referee was distracted, I think, like checking up on Ricochet or something. They probably could have done that a little bit better, but overall, the biggest complaint that I have when it comes to this is just they didn't do any one big, cool kind of spot in some fashion, and that's a missed opportunity. I was really looking forward to that. I give it a thumbs up still. I'm confused why then they had, after this, Sheamus pops up in a monster truck. That's why how he's coming to the arena. They're just like, oh, look at that. Sheamus is in a monster truck. Anyway, moving on. That wasn't even promoting anything.
It fits in with the whole style, not substance, aesthetic that WWE pretty much generates on a weekly, daily basis, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they just, hey, this guy's doing something cool, and that's it. And that's kind of it, really.
Yeah. After that was one of the 4 main events, because you could have 4 main events on an 8-match card, apparently. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar, which was a lot of, I guess you would say like maybe a good half of the match, if not more, was Cody being thrown to the outside and just managing to break a 10 count and not get counted out. To a certain extent, that works because it is just showing that, like, he's got a lot of grit. He can keep coming back and keep fighting it out and all. But then it also gets a little on the boring side because then you're just sort of waiting for something to happen more so in the match. I did like the match overall, though. I think that they had the right call. Cody Rhodes wins by pinfall after 3 different crossroads. They did a little spot afterward where Brock went for a handshake, pulled him in for a hug, went for a second handshake, didn't do an F5 or anything. I was expecting that maybe he would just do that for the sake of it, but pure respect angle at the end of it. So this, you would assume, is the end of this feud. And I think it's the right call to have him win, but at the same time, I'm going to say something that a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God, why are you complaining about this? But this doesn't offset him losing at WrestleMania. It's not like, oh, well, he lost to Mania, but he beat Brock after a 3-match thing, so that's good enough. No, this is a side mission. And I still want to see Cody Rhodes just win that title at WrestleMania. I still think it should have happened then. I don't think it should have had to wait for Mania 40.
Yeah, it was a good match, but I don't know why Brock was so dead set on having Cody lose by count out. Like, I don't think there was anything in the build to this story that had any sort of suggestion that Brock just wanted to essentially, like, if you told a story building up to the match where Brock would say that it's not enough for me to pin you in the ring or make you tap out because I've beaten you already in the ring. What I'm going to do is beat you so badly that you won't even be able to get back into the ring. You'll have to just, collapse and fall outside the ring, and I'll prove once for all that you don't even belong in the same ring as me.
Right.
And then if you tell that story, and then the whole match is Brock destroying him on the outside and Cody desperately getting in and then trying to win, the actual way, then that's totally cool. Then you're actually telling a really good story. But that was nothing going into the match that prepared you for it. And so it just felt like, well, Brock, you've just F5'd him on the floor and then F5'd him through an announce table. Why don't you, pull him into the ring and try and pin him? Why are you giving him like 10 seconds to get to his feet and get back into the ring rather than 3 seconds to try and take his shoulders off the mat? So yeah, that part of it, I think it would have made more for me if like you do the first one where he's going for like a 9 count and he gets like the F5 on the outside and he gets back in the ring, and then you F5 him through the table and then you pull him in the ring and then he kicks out at like 2.9. Then I think, okay, they're trying to push the real resilience of Cody. And I think they're trying to do the whole, like, Brock at SummerSlam is, like in many people's eyes, he's Mr. SummerSlam and he dominates things, and doing the whole, like, taking Cody to Suplex City, and it's almost in a similar thing to the Cena match back in, 2014.
Oh, was that 9 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Doesn't feel like it should be that long ago.
But yeah, I thought that once Cody started getting back into it, like things picked up, and yeah, it was good that he gets like the clean pinfall victory. I just thought that it should have been more even than just like Brock taking the first 70-80% of the match and then Cody pretty much taking everything in the last 20%, and could have just held a bit more of a even fight, which then led to Cody getting the victory, especially if you are positioning him to challenge Roman for the title at WrestleMania next year. But yeah, and I also probably would have not had Cody cheat so much to win as well, because he won by hitting Brock with steel steps, which wasn't a DQ for some reason.
Right, yeah.
And then taking the turnbuckle off the pad and throwing Brock into it. So I know it's a case of, okay, like, you're fighting Brock Lesnar, you have to find ways to survive, but realistically, like, Cody used every advantage because he knows that he can't beat Brock Lesnar straight up. And that doesn't really scream me as like, wow, you're super over the top babyface.
No, it seems more like something that a heel should do to try to squeak out a victory over the Undertaker.
Yeah, or a babyface doing it to get even after the heel's done it to them first.
Yeah, even that.
Yeah, but it was just a case of Cody was getting manhandled. He pulled the turnbuckle pad off of it. He was getting manhandled on the outside, so he pulled up the steel steps, and the referee said, and I heard some people try and justify it by saying, like, well, the steel steps are technically part of the ring, so I guess that's fine. It's like, it's just like, nah, that's a DQ, but you just can't DQ him in this match, and so, but yeah, I thought that it was good. Again, it still just fell below what my expectations were for the big blow-off match between these two.
And I don't know if you would agree or disagree with me on this. I don't think that I got anything out of this having 2 extra matches. I think that him just beating Brock in the first match, the second match didn't do anything to offset that to justify a third match, and the third match win doesn't mean any more than the first win. I think that they led with the first thing, and then they just came back around to where they were originally. I don't think it was really worth doing 4 months of this feud.
Well, yeah, you can definitely look back in hindsight and say that. Like, I can't say, like, at the time it was a bad idea, but in hindsight, yeah, it probably hasn't lived up to what you would have hoped it would be.
Yeah. Still like the match, though. Still a positive. I am completely at a loss for what they plan on doing with Cody going forward, though, because I can't see them just being like, all right, well, then Cody's going to get a title shot against Roman next. I think that that's at Mania, if not after Mania. Or they might just not even do it at all, for all we know. But nobody's standing out. It's like the next person. So maybe they have somebody attack him on Monday Night Raw, and they start a whole nother angle with like Bray Wyatt or somebody. I don't know. But there's nothing that screams out to me as the next thing for Cody is going to be to go for this title or to feud with this person or pretty much anything along those lines. And the same thing for Brock. Like, there's nobody that stands out as Brock's next opponent for me. I think we're not going to see him until Crown Jewel at the earliest. Maybe Superstar Spectacle. I don't know. So they're probably not for that one. I was a bigger fan, and I know that you are as well, of the Slim Jim SummerSlam Battle Royal that followed this. Which, when everybody came out to the ring, after the bell rings, MVP comes out and says, no, actually, Omos is in this as well. Which, I don't know why they waited until the bell rang for it. Just, I guess they thought that would be like an oh shit moment, but it's Omos, so nobody really cares. He lost, he took out a lot of people in this match. Apollo Crews, Jada McDonough, Rick Boogs. Everybody ganged up on him, and he just said, fuck off, and continued to fight everybody else and whatever. Not going to go through every single elimination, but ends up going down to our final 4, which was LA Knight, Sheamus, AJ Styles, and Bronson Reed. And Reed gets taken out by Knight. Cross holds down Styles, screws him over. Sheamus gets brogue kick, and we're down to Sheamus and LA Knight, the 2 people that pretty much started this whole thing and had the most focal point on them for this whole thing. And LA Knight wins. Battle Royals are fun. LA Knight's over. I like that they had certain people eliminate certain other people to kind of continue the stories. Like Tommaso Ciampa took out Shinsuke Nakamura, and Bronson Reed took out Tommaso Ciampa. They did a little bit with Austin Theory, following up Cameron Grimes, taking out by Escobar. Thumbs up. Good match.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be any exaggeration to say that this was probably the most fun I had on the entire show.
Yeah, pretty much. One of them at least.
Yeah, I felt that like it was fairly like quick and easy to digest, but they tried to pack a lot in, and they told some stories inside of the match as well. You had like Santos Escobar eliminated Austin Theory to continue to set up for their United States title match, and you had Chad Gable eliminate both members of Imperium, or at least like get involved in the elimination of Imperium to continue the fact that he could be challenging Gunther again going forward for the title. So yeah, that was good to see. Everyone ganged up on Omos after they decided that Omos was going to be like the big guy, big final announced entrant coming in. Had some interaction between like Nakamura and Ciampa, and got a brief moment of potential reconciliation between like Butch and Matt Riddle.
Yeah, the Broserweights kind of returned for a brief moment.
Yeah. They had a segment of like the Miz and Grayson Waller hitting their moves together, which is basically just them doing the like quote unquote Spider-Man meme of you're just SmackDown's version of me and I'm just Raw's version of you. And then I think there was also some good signs in terms of like the reactions when certain people got eliminated. Like people were very upset when Chad Gable got eliminated, which I think is a good sign that he's getting momentum behind him. But like everyone that gets organic momentum behind him, I don't think that's going to actually lead anything substantive, but we'll see. And you end with LA Knight getting the victory. I didn't predict that because I just took a negative perception as like this guy that got organically over, so of course they're not going to go with him, especially after he beat Sheamus on SmackDown. But okay, you won that match, that means you're going to lose the match on the pay-per-view, but they decided to do it, so they made the right decision about who would win this match, and it was a fun battle royal.
Now, if they can follow this up with more of a push for LA Knight, all that much better. If they think that this is good enough to just be like, well, you won the SummerSlam thing, and then I guess we're not going to do anything else, then we're going to have everybody following the same method that happened with Dolph Ziggler and stuff, where it's just like, you really didn't want to push the guy that you didn't want to push, did you? But this is a good sign that maybe they are listening, and maybe we're going to see some good stuff coming to LA Knight in the future, which is good. Peter asking, where the hell's Gargano? And where's Loomis? Yeah, neither of them were in the Battle Royal. Loomis isn't even injured, so I guess they're just waiting for him. They don't want him to pop up until there's a reason for him, but a couple other people missing from there's not too surprising for somebody like a Shelton Benjamin, who's really punching only on main event and all, but we'll see if they have any plans to pop up with anybody after this on Raw and maybe kind of continue them. They didn't want to do that necessarily right now, but we did see people in here that have other things going on. So big fan of this segment. Not as much of a fan of the MMA rules match that followed it. Shayna Baszler beating Ronda Rousey by technical submission in what was a boring, slow match that the crowd was pretty much booing the entire time.
Oh, it'd be generous to say they were booing it the whole time. They were sitting on their hands, not wanting to be involved in it. The fact saying they were booing would mean that they in any way were invested in this match. That's
a little more active than what they were, yeah.
As someone who is like a fan of, I don't want to say it worked MMA, but likes like pure rules that Ring of Honor does, and I enjoy some of like the Bloodsport matches that I've seen in the past, over WrestleMania weekends and stuff. This absolutely sucked. It's amazing that two women who actually have done MMA, and then they try and do this whole more worked or WWE friendly version, and what it ends up being is it's not MMA and it's not a WWE wrestling match. It's some sort of bastard child of all of that stuff.
I was going to say bastardized hybrids, and we're both going to go with bastard for it.
But they are, the punches looked awful. The transitions and submission moves looked sloppy. The crowd was completely dead because anytime they were just rolling around the mat, whatever, just didn't make any sense. Didn't make any sense that when Ronda did the whole like step up knee into the face, then she just completely backed off, because that's exactly what they do in MMA. They take someone down and then they walk away from it, because that's the moments that you.
Why would you capitalize on there and get on top of them and beat the shit out of them and win, right?
And the referee just constantly trying to put them in the corner. They just did do like this stoppage point with like the an injury angle, which kind of lessened the impact of an injury angle they did later on in the night as well, because they did in both women's matches, surprisingly enough, as well. This was, I don't know if it'll end up being like a worst match of the year territory, but it's one of those, sometimes hear those arguments saying like the only thing worse than bad is boring. And this was definitely it. Like I would have rather seen a train wreck of a match than this.
And it's not something that, of course, means anything either. Like there are no titles on the line, no number one contendership or anything. So it's not like, well, at the very least, it goes down in the record books as Ronda Rousey put over Shayna and Shayna's the new champion and we can go forward with that or something. Instead, it's just Ronda's probably gone. She put over her friend in the meantime, but Shayna doesn't get a win out of this. That makes her seem like a big priority that they're going to push. It's just more so they probably said, well, that's what Ronda wants. We'll do it. And then that's it. I'm not getting a vibe that they really want to push Shayna going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's obviously hard to tell right now. And it's like, well, she's a heel. Well, I don't know if she's heel. She's babyface. No one cares about her. That's pretty much based on this reaction. So, yeah, I don't imagine she's going after Rhea Ripley after this. So I don't know where she would kind of end up following this stuff. So yeah, no clear trajectory, no immediate positive momentum coming out of this. Also,
is Shayna on the Raw roster? I forget. I think she is, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think her and Ronda were drafted to Raw.
Okay, so then Shayna versus Ronda, or Shayna versus Rhea at some point, maybe. Well, I mean, whenever the fuck they want Rhea to actually defend the title, because they're mostly not having her do that. So maybe that's a payback match. Maybe that's a Fastlane is the one that's after that. Superstar Spectacle. One of those toads following immediately that. I don't know, but she'll get a title match maybe, and that's about it. I don't think she's beating her.
Do you want to know what was happening on Collision at this point as well?
What was it?
Oh, well, just slightly prior to this match, there was the best segment on Collision, which was Christian having a backstage interview where he had his kid with him, and like his daughter, and then he got his daughter taken out of the building for wanting to hold his belt, even though it's not his belt. And I just thought that was. He basically just said, she said to him, "Hey, can I hold your title?" And he said, "You didn't win this title." It's like, no, you didn't win it. He's the best. And then during the bulk of this match, it was the Ricky Starks CM Punk title match. So I was definitely paying much more attention to that than this. And even though I wasn't paying attention, I could still tell that this was all really bad.
And Punk came out on top of that, right?
Yes.
Of course.
And then Ricky Starks beat up Ricky Steamboat.
Ricky Steamboat was there.
Yeah, he was the it shows how much attention you pay. He was announced last week as the special guest referee enforcer for this match.
Yeah, I skip all that. Like, coming up on Rampage is going to be, I'm like, not fast forward. But Emilio in the chat saying it didn't even feel like a big moment for Baszler. Beating Dana Brooke would have had the same effect. I mean, in some ways, because the crowd was not digging it, and thankfully it woke up a little bit. Well. What's that?
Would have saved us some time on this show as well.
Yeah. The crowd did pick up a little bit more for the match that followed this. Gunther defending successfully the Intercontinental Championship over Drew McIntyre. But I gotta say, it's not as good as the matches that they had before. So it was a little bit on the more disappointing side. Not on the bad side by any means. It was still a good match. But I liked their other encounters more. And outside of the idea that there was potential and that they didn't need to probably put any effort into this and this just eats up some more time, and you know, you can outweigh the benefits one way or another when it comes to like would you rather have Gunther started another feud with somebody and then he's running out of people quicker, or would you rather them just do another Drew McIntyre match and say, screw it, let's keep the momentum of Drew returning, try to milk it for what we can, and then move on? I get it. But at the same time, I was a little bit disappointed in the match, so not as good as I was hoping that it would be, but I'm still really happy that Gunther retained because I want him to beat that record.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't say it was a bad match by stretch of imagination. It was a very good match. It's only, I think it started off pretty slow because I think the crowd was just absolutely dead after that MMA Rules match. And so once they started like chopping the shit out of each other, the crowd started to get back into it, which was good to see. So I'm glad they were able to win the crowd back over and get them excited for the finish. And the finish was like a nice dominant way for Gunther to take McIntyre out, hit him with like, the big splash, and then a clothesline, then a powerbomb, like definitively hitting all three of his biggest moves and getting the victory. So that just firmly establishes, he wins. I did get the sense throughout this match, and maybe it's just me, but I think McIntyre is pretty checked out.
I did kind of have a little bit of that vibe, but I thought that I was just maybe reading too much into it. But if you were thinking the same thing, then maybe it did come across a little bit more like that.
It just like feels like this match, again, it's the story of a lot of this show, this match felt like it could have been a lot more. And maybe it's just me either reading too much into it or just thinking that, they were given like 13, 14 minutes, and so they went out and did the best they could in that point of time. And it's not like, yes, it was a good match, but it's not like right at the peak. I thought Gunther's match with Chad Gable on Raw was better than, was more interesting than this was. And so I think that there is something about McIntyre, and when I say checked out, I don't mean that like he's leaving the company anytime soon, but I just think that he's creatively unsatisfied at the moment.
Or just going through the motions a little bit. Like, I'll have a good match with him, but at the same time, I'm not going to.
Yeah, but where am I going? What am I doing?
Yeah, like I'm not going to put any stock into it as being like a career-defining match. It's just going to be, I'll go out there and I'll do my job, and it'll be okay. Right. Peter saying Jinder beats Gunther at Superstar Spectacle. I fucking hope not. I really don't want Jinder Mahal to be Intercontinental Champion as the guide to beat Gunther. But crazier things have happened, that's for sure. So we are a little bit closer to that Honky Tonk Man record. That will be September 6th or 8th or something along those lines. He's still got to get their payback, and then he'll be pretty solid. Maybe potentially that Superstar Spectacle thing. I don't know, but it's not giving me the vibe that they're planning on having him lose the belt at Superstar Spectacle in particular. So let's see how this goes going forward. I think we're done with Drew McIntyre and Gunther. I don't think this is going to continue going forward. But the Judgment Day situation with Seth Rollins, I don't know if that's going to continue going forward. And I am going to echo what I had said before. I do not think that this should have continued. This Finn Balor and Seth Rollins match was fine, but it's almost exactly what we got from the last pay-per-view. Rollins beats Balor in part because there's enough of a distraction ringside from Damian Priest that Rollins can capitalize on it. Balor loses. Damian Priest looks upset and doesn't want to cash in. What is the difference between the two of these? All they did was they carried it on, did the same thing to be like, well, now it's happened twice. Ooh. I don't care. I'm done. Don't do any more of these. Balor should not get another title shot. He's clearly not, in like the kayfabe sense, capable of just beating Seth Rollins. So move on. And I'm tired of the whole, is Damian Priest going to cash in with Balor involved or not? He didn't do it twice. So if he didn't do it on these pay-per-views, he didn't do it on Raw, it's not going to happen, or you're waiting to take it to the next level too long from now. And I'm already tired of it.
Yeah, I thought that my mindset was that you wouldn't be doing this match if you weren't having Finn Balor win, because you put a lot of stock into the Judgment Day recently, and there's a good story I say good story to tell, but there's a good visual of him being the World Heavyweight Champion when you've got Dominic as a champion, Rhea as a champion, Damian Priest is an incumbent champion because he's holding the Money in the Bank briefcase. So, like, having all that makes you a super dominant stable. And they seem like they want to put a lot of stock in the Judgment Day. So I thought, okay, that just makes logical sense to just have Seth drop the title here. Seth doesn't have any clear direction beyond this point. So, yeah, why not just have Balor win and he can go after some baby faces on the roster, like, have a Riddle or, I don't know, probably not Cody, because Cody doesn't want to win that belt, apparently. But yeah, there'll be plenty of names to go after. But yeah, I just felt that they teased a lot at the end. I thought the finishing sequence is what you'd expect, just having every other member of the Judgment Day involved. But I don't really get the super, like, the confusion or the ambiguity surrounding Priest's involvement in it. Like, the Priest, what was the plan? Because they seem to be pushing the idea on commentary, or like other people seem to get the impression that, like, Balor wanted Priest to cash in.
Well, if I heard it correctly, when Priest came in and he started calling Dominic and Rhea to come down, and Balor got the briefcase and was like arguing with them, it sounded like he said, "What are you doing? This isn't plan A."
Oh no, he basically said we're still on plan A at the moment.
Okay, yeah. So, like, the idea being, like, if Balor can't beat Rollins, then Priest will cash in afterward or something along those lines, I guess, was supposed to be the case.
Yeah, but then it's just like, then there's this so what happens is that Balor hits the coup de grace, but he kicks out, and then you've got Priest staring at this. Again, it's the whole WWE thing as well, because like 80% of their matches are just people staring at each other. And
talk about that later for sure.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing of like Balor staring at Priest and Priest staring at Balor, and they both don't seem to know what they're doing. And so is that the point that Priest is supposed to be cashing in? Because then he just goes over and he puts the briefcase in the ring. Balor goes for the briefcase while he distracts the referee. Rollins stomps Balor on the ground. Priest then decides that this is the perfect time to stop distracting the referee. So it gets back down, and then Rollins pins Balor, obviously, after that. And then, and then if the plan is, are you supposed to cash in afterwards, he then just stares at Rollins, because more staring, because that's what's necessary. I'm surprised how many camera cuts they have in this company when it's just two people staring at each other. Like, but yeah, and then he just walks out, and Priest doesn't do anything, and they both just shake their heads at each other, more staring at each other, and Rhea staring at them, and it's like, what's going on? And like, yeah, I don't get it. Like, there seems to be real momentum behind the Judgment Day, and the crowd seems to be super into this group, even though they're heels, but there's, like, cool heels that you want to kind of get behind. And now they're just adding more fractures into the group, and I'm just like, why? There's an easy decision here. Have Finn win. They can go on like this little run. It doesn't have to be like, he doesn't have to hold it until WrestleMania. You could hold it until like Survivor Series or Turn of the Year or Royal Rumble or something like that. As this part of this group, have him lose it in a way which makes Damian Priest upset, or have him lose and then have Damian Priest immediately cash in so he becomes the new, like, champion in the group, and then that starts a little bit of a divide between them. And then by the time WrestleMania comes around, you can have them feuding and then having a big match at WrestleMania. Like, I don't understand why they're hitting the detonation button on this group already. Doesn't make any sense to me.
And I'm not at all disappointed that Balor didn't win, but I just don't think they should have stretched this out for another whole extra month to do the same outcome that they did before. If this would have pushed anything, like if Priest would have cashed in and won in particular, but if he would have cashed in and lost even, then I could be like, oh, okay, the reason why they did it is because they wanted to further that divide and they needed to do another match so that they could do a cash in. Or if they hadn't done anything at all with Priest the last time, and this was the time where it's like Priest got in the way, then sure, but nothing moves the story. Look at that, right? So I was going to say that. Adam says the same thing. This didn't move the story forward at all. It's just a matter of, what did you do the last time? It continued on after a few weeks of saying, we're going to have another match. So if you missed the previous pay-per-view and you watched this, you're in exactly the same position as if you would have watched the last one and missed this one, or watched both. You didn't need to watch either of them or both of them to get the same story.
also kind of annoyed me about this is the whole 7 years thing angle they were pushing throughout the entire thing. I didn't really mention it too much in the predictions aspect, but like Bálor came out and he had like 7 paid on his shoulder to indicate that was the part of his body that got injured 7 years ago in their match SummerSlam. And then the whole commentary was pushing out like, he's never forgotten, he's always been deceiving, he's been plotting his revenge for the last 7 years, as if like he got injured during that match and went away for that entire 7 years and then just came back for this match, rather than, you know, having multiple matches with Seth Rollins in the in the interim, and not even just discounting the last couple of months, but, you know, a WrestleMania match over the Intercontinental Championship and several other matches in the meantime. But no, this was 7 years in the making. It's like, but, you know, WWE has a habit of rewriting history. And apparently there were 59,000 people in this building.
I mean, there were more than 59,000. They could only count the 59,000 because there was really 250, right? Mm. But yeah, I mean, that match ultimately becomes nothing at all to talk about because nothing did end up happening. And then they followed that up with another commercial because you don't have enough commercials on these shows. You know, you pay for the commercial free thing and you watch commercials. So then they do commercials during the matches. So then they do commercials after the matches. So then they do the video packages that are commercials. So then they also do this one, which was a Mike's Hard Lemonade commercial with Alpha Academy and The Miz arguing over what a mic is. This was stupid.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
That's pretty much all to talk about. It was dumb and not funny.
The pacing of these shows is unbearable. I can't take it anymore watching these shows live.
If you trim each one of these interstitial things by 1 minute each, and then you just have one more match on the show, it would change the pacing up quite a bit because you'd be able to actually continue to have action instead of you come to a dead halt and then you've got 11 minutes worth of, I don't need to be watching the TV because they're going to have the video packages and the entrances for each thing. Because, I mean, this doesn't need to be a 5-hour show. 8 matches. Some of those matches should have been trimmed too, but the next match that was after this was the triple threat match for the women's championship, which the crowd was also not digging. And I don't blame them for that either, because this was pretty sloppy, to be honest. There were a lot of moments in here. It seemed like most of them revolved around Charlotte Flair, where they were just botching. Like, Flair whiffed her moonsault from, like, I don't know, 3 feet away from Belair, it seemed, and immediately followed it up by whiffing a DDT from Asuka. There were moments where she couldn't even put the figure 4 on correctly on Bianca for a little bit there. The only real interesting thing that happened during the match itself for me was when Bianca fell to the outside and she hit her knee on the sill steps and audibly said, "Ow, fuck." And then she was getting checked on by the trainers and all. So for a brief moment, I thought, oh, maybe that's actually a legit injury. And then I thought to myself, well, I mean, what's the likelihood now? And she comes back eventually. That leads to the end of the match, which is a figure 4 that's not quite a figure 4, where Flair gets missed in her face and Belair rolls up Asuka while she's in the figure 4, and you get a new champion with Bianca Belair, immediately followed by Io Sky cashing in, winning the title, and having a big celebration with Damage Control, including Dakota Kai. Which, of course, that's the biggest story to everybody. It's going to be the cash-in. Io is our new champion. Bianca gets another one for the record books, which I'm a little surprised wasn't Charlotte, just to get her the 15th one and move it out of the way. But it was a rough segment, but we got to a spot that I like. Like, I'm glad Io's champion. It's a shame that 3 of the best women that have ever been in this company didn't have a better match leading into that.
Yeah, for the 20 plus minutes this match was given, like, there was just like nothing really happened of any real substance or note or interest until the Bianca injury angle. And I think the crowd was, I think genuinely, because I saw a lot of people on Twitter, that really thought that Bianca was really injured, so she did a really good job of selling that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that if I was going back to the ring to try and break up a submission attempt and my knee was fucked up, my first thought wouldn't be to go to the top rope and hit a 450 splash.
True.
So maybe the psychology's a little off there, but you know, it was a cool looking spot. I think, and Rob would vehemently disagree with me if he was on here, because I know he has a different opinion with it, but I think Charlotte Flair sucks. And the match that she had with Rhea earlier this year was the exception, not the rule.
I think Charlotte now is not the Charlotte that we've seen before.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that she's always sucked, but I think right now she's really bad.
She phones it in at the very least, yeah.
I think she phones it in when she doesn't think that she's in a big spot or in a big match. And realistically, this was a big match, but I thought she just couldn't perform at the level of the other two. Like, there's a clear discrepancy in the bumps that she takes in particular. It's not like it's a common thing like the match that she had with Sky a couple of weeks back on SmackDown, when you had those clips going around of her doing some gymnastic rolls to instead of actually bumping for moves. And yeah, I think that she is I don't know, maybe she just doesn't want to do this anymore, or she wants to do this but she doesn't want to hurt herself doing it anymore. If she doesn't want to hurt herself, maybe she shouldn't be doing the moonsault anymore, because she can't do those particularly well either.
Yeah. I mean, it's been how long since she's really nailed that spot? A couple of years. Yeah.
So I think that like she can have those moments, like the Rhea match. It was like one of the better matches this year, and so it's not like she's completely checked out of it. When she's on, she can have great matches, but I think that the times that she is on is getting fewer and fewer far between. So I'd say I don't look forward to her getting involved in it. I knew that if there was a chance for this match to not go well, she'd be at the heart of it. I don't really get the idea of I don't really get the logic of having Bianca win outside of you don't want Io to cash in on a heel. And I think that maybe it's the idea that if Charlotte won, then the crowd would be more excited for Io winning. And if Asuka won, that's a heel on a heel, so they wouldn't do that. So I guess Bianca was the only other option there. But it does kind of fuel more the whole Super Cena, Super Belair comparisons.
A little bit, yeah. And not that Belair needed to get another title win here or anything, to put her in the record books or anything. Bianca's still, these three are Hall of Famers and all the things that goes along with that. But I guess they don't want to turn Bianca heel, and they want to just sort of do she got screwed over and she's going to win the title back down the line, or they want to do this as a means for her to turn heel, to be like, I got screwed over and this is bullshit.
I think there's at least the benefit is obviously winning and actually cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase. Of course, they did the thing beforehand of her losing pretty much every match she had after winning the briefcase. So, she lost, last night to Zelina Vega, so... Yeah. So I guess that could be... Well, again, that at least gives you, a straightforward title match to immediately have. But I think that it reaffirmed that Damage Control is still a unit. They all came out at the end to celebrate, and Bayley, took out everyone else with the briefcase to make sure that Io had a clear path to Bianca. So I don't think Damage Control is ending anytime soon, and... It's one of those things that, the whole booking of this group has been bad, pretty much since their debut. They won that match at Clash at the Castle, and then they just beat Bayley like a drum over and over and over again, and didn't really do much with the other two as tag team champions. So this is your opportunity to kind of reset with Io as the front woman of the group, and have Bayley kind of be her corner person, and cut her promos for her and all that stuff.
And then eventually that they are going to split. We are going to see Io versus Bayley. We're going to see Io versus Flair, Io versus Asuka, Io versus Bianca. Probably Io versus Zelina, like you said, because she did get the pin over her. So maybe they're going to do that as a SmackDown only feud, maybe, or maybe that's what they plan on just going straight to for Payback, or
should should we also use this opportunity to talk about the fact that Kairi Sane has re-signed with WWE?
We can talk a little bit about it more on the hot tags, but it's a thing that's going around now. So you got to assume that there's a chance that we might see Kairi versus Io. We might see Kairi team back up with Asuka. We might see that as soon as this next couple episodes of things, for all we know. Because if it is true that she is coming back, we don't know exactly when she is. A lot of people thought that she was going to be coming back tonight even. But if we get her teaming back up in some fashion or feuding with them or whatever, I'm down to see that for sure. Io versus Kairi, cool.
Yeah, you can't complain about adding like some very solid, strong like women's wrestlers to your roster, especially when there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of direction in the whole division in terms of actually building interesting storylines. So yeah, hopefully she does get involved, and whether that leads to feuding with Io or teaming with Asuka or teaming with Io or anything like that moving forward, it'd be good to have Kairi as part. Like Kairi would be a good part of anybody's roster. So yeah, good on WWE for bringing her back.
I'm surprised. Didn't anticipate that she would be back anytime soon, if not at the very least, at all.
Yeah, I can't say that. I'm not. I didn't see it coming, especially after like she had a recent match with Sarai. She's now kind of like booking her own shows in Japan.
Sarai is?
Yeah.
Huh. Like she's like the booker?
Yeah, she's promoting her own shows.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's neat. Isn't she like 22 or something?
No, she's considerably older than that, I think.
Really?
Not considerably. Well, not like in her 30s, whatever, but like she'd been wrestling in Japan for quite a while before she came to NXT for that short stint.
I love that she was on the like quite younger. She's 27. Okay. Yeah. I thought she was maybe like one of those like 20-year-olds that was signed and then it's only been a couple of years or something. But
but it's like when Japan usually like a lot of the women's wrestlers start wrestling when they're like 15, 16.
Yeah. Where Riho was like, what, 8 or something?
Yeah. So, but I think that, so she had a tag match it was Sarai and Kairi against a couple of other people I'm not super familiar with on a show. It was like a couple of days ago. So just like, okay, she's still working in Japan, but she's freelancing and she's not just in Stardom, she's doing some other shows as well. And then this announcement just comes out. It's like, oh, okay. I'm not going to be like other people, because I know other people are like super upset about it because they watch Stardom. I'm like a very, very casual Stardom watcher. But to be honest, like even with my casual watching of it, I don't think she's done a huge amount since coming back to Stardom. Like she's done a few big things, and obviously she won the New Japan Women's Championship. That was kind of like the biggest thing that she did in her time away from WWE.
Arguably the biggest thing that she could have done even. So...
Oh yeah.
Cross that off the list, and then what? Kind of.
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah. So yeah, it's just, well, hopefully she's getting a good downside for it at the very least. Like, yeah. That's the most important thing. Hopefully she's getting paid well for it, and hopefully it goes better for her than what led to her leaving in the last time.
No, they don't have Nia Jax on the roster anymore,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So at least that's one benefit for that. So she's going to be a little bit on the safer side, but. I gotta say, as much as that was a match that it was an underwhelming match that led to a fun enough segment with the Money in the Bank thing, following that, boring as all hell. Main event, tribal combat for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, Roman Reigns against Jey Uso. For anybody that was wondering that it was going to be anything different, no, it was very much indeed a generic no DQ match with pretty much just a kendo stick and nothing else. There were a few things with chairs and tables, but nothing at all memorable. This was boring and slow and not at all this epic building up to this grand crescendo type of a thing. It doesn't feel like a SummerSlam main event to me. It feels like this would have been like that. This made more sense for like a Payback type of pay-per-view. And I am not at all surprised to say it was following the exact same scenario that we always see. It's just Solo Sikoa attacks, Roman can't do anything on his own, and then the big twist is Jimmy Uso interferes and costs Jey Uso. Because why? Well, as illogical as it is, they think, I'm sure, wouldn't it be interesting if that happens, because you would never see that coming, right? And then you can milk the next couple episodes with, we're going to hear from Jey Uso about why he did the thing that he did at SummerSlam. Let's go back and check out the footage of that. Oh man, now we can introduce Jey and he can come out and he can go, I'm disappointed in my brother because he wanted to be the tribal chief and I never thought that he should be the tribal chief. I should be the tribal chief. Why am I not? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Just to have Jimmy versus Jey at the next pay-per-view or something. And then Roman disappears for the next couple months. And look, I'm not disappointed that Jey didn't win. I was rooting for Roman. I didn't think that Jey is the right call to beat Roman. But I was just looking forward to, maybe this can be a fun no DQ match. And it was boring. Well, maybe this could at least be that Roman wins definitively and we get what we haven't gotten for 2 years now of him winning a match for real. And of course, we don't get that. No, we get the Jimmy turn because that's the only thing they can think of that would be interesting here. And now we're continuing with the bloodline feuding with each other. Basically, we're in exactly the same situation we were before, where I'm just like, all right, can you just tell me who Roman's fighting at Mania? Can we just skip that? Is it going to be The Rock and it's going to be a waste of time? Or is it going to be Cody and he wins the belt? Or are you going to wait even longer and it's going to be even more disappointing?
Yeah, I think that, I think if anybody was expecting too much different from this match in terms of the layout and structure, I think they were probably going to kid themselves, because this is what Roman does. This is the Roman formula. Roman spends a couple of minutes hitting someone, and spends, out of a 10-minute segment, he spends 2 minutes hitting someone and 8 minutes pandering to the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, but that's the formula, and everyone seems to love it. So, but I think even by those limits, this match was really, really dull and really, really formulaic. Nothing really caught your attention. There wasn't really any kind of indication that Jey was going to get the victory over Roman until the very last little bits. You had Solo get involved, and you had Roman spear Solo at one point, and so you added a little bit more intrigue into, supposed intrigue into, is Solo going to turn on Roman at some point? And then you have the big splash at the end after Jey spears Roman and Jimmy pulls him out, and it's just, I went in kind of pretty vociferous about the idea that this wasn't going to happen. And the reason why I was, even though there's always the possibility, and it obviously ended up being the case, the reason why is because I don't want to get into a situation where I'm expecting bad things, or not just bad things, utterly illogical things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, I don't want to watch anymore.
Yeah. Because then, that's the same as any other TV show. If you watch the article of, for instance, not the article, just reading on the chat, Ted saying article. If you watch a TV show and you're 2 episodes in and you're not digging the show, you don't continue to watch the series if you think that it's going to be bad. And when you watch pro wrestling, you want to be excited for the next thing that's happening. You don't want to be like, all right, well, I'm not going to care, so then there's no point in me watching the TV that leads up to the pay-per-view, because the pay-per-view is going to be blah.
But I just don't know how they are going to, and they'll figure out some kind of way, and I guess some people will be brought back into it, but Jimmy was the one that hit Roman in the first place. Jimmy was the one that broke up the bloodline in that match. Jey was the one that was conflicted about it. And yet Jimmy is the one who's now decided to turn on Jey off the back of this. Is the story they're going to tell something along the lines of, you taking your time, turning on the group, meant that I got hurt and now I'm upset with you about it? Or is it really all about who's the tribal chief, and it's going to lead to some kind of 4-way match down the line between all 4 of them?
Which I don't want that at Mania, for instance. I don't want to see Jimmy versus Jey versus Solo versus Roman.
But I don't know what they think these two are going to do as singles guys. They are a tag team, they are a unit. I just don't think, it's not, They tried multiple times splitting the Hardys up,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked. And it worked for a little while when they both like were on separate shows. But then it kind of worked really because Jeff was in and out of the company for a lot of that time. And whenever they have tried feuding with each other, the only time it's worked them feuding against each other is in Impact, and that was because of all the crazy like bullshit broken Matt Hardy stuff that surrounded it. But yeah, I don't think that Jey and Jimmy, this is just like them going to be feuding for a few months, and then they'll realize that they don't work as singles, and they'll reunite sometime next year, and then it'll feel like it just never happened, like this never happened in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, why don't you just have Roman win? Like, really, I know other people say, like, I think you tweeted about it as well, about how Roman always needs interference to win his matches. I think part of me is kind of the mindset of that's the story. Like the whole time Roman wins, he needs people to help him, but that's why I felt like you needed to tell that story, because when the bloodline finally does crumble around him and he's on his own, that's when he loses, because he doesn't have anyone to help him out anymore. Like, when people are like pretending like this is a dominant reign, like the whole story of Roman Reigns' thing is it's not a dominant reign. It's a reign where he wins because he has other people helping him, and he thinks that he's dominant, but he is insecure. That's why he asks people to acknowledge him every time, because he knows that if they don't, then he's going to feel vulnerable about it. Like,
which it started off as him just beating Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman outright.
Yeah, but he cheated. But you say like he beat him outright.
Did he cheat in that one? I thought he just beat him.
Well,
I don't remember for sure. Maybe he did.
Ago. What happened is Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt had a match for 15 minutes, and then Roman came out for the last minute and pinned one of them.
Oh, I don't remember that at all then, yeah.
And then ever since then, it's been the only times that he's really won clean is like he beat up Jey Uso, but that was obviously right at the start of this whole thing. But then pretty much any time after that, he's had Jey and Jimmy in his corner, and then Solo after that. So yeah, pretty much every match that he's had some kind of interference to help him win, like from the WrestleMania match over Daniel Bryan and Edge all the way through to this one. He's always had someone in his corner helping him out. Like fucking hell, like the match he had with Kevin Owens at that Last Man Standing match, the Royal Rumble. We had Paul Heyman come and help him like uncuff himself to win the match. So yeah, that's the whole story with Roman, is that he can't do it on his own, but he likes to think that he can. So the interference stuff doesn't really bother me in the sense that it bothers me in the sense that it's just bad. But it doesn't bother me in the sense that it makes sense in terms of the story. What doesn't make sense to me of this is that they're going to have to find some way to justify why Jimmy Uso is going after Jey, other than the fact that we want to just stretch this out even longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how they can do that logically. I think that now more and more people are starting to get on board with the idea of, oh yeah, Sami Zayn's the only one that really made this interesting. Like Sami pulled the miracle of making this 3-year storyline, make it super interesting for like 6 months, and then he went away, and then it all fell apart again.
I mean, he was the most interesting driving force of the bloodline for a good amount of that. And
yeah,
I mean, it's kind of obvious that was the case because that led to the match, you know?
Yeah. But the sad thing about it is that like this is, because it did get over, and now there's just this organic momentum behind it. This is the biggest thing on SmackDown, and so they're going to milk it for as long as it's worth.
Mm.
Also was like a really big thing for a while, but then actually ended up being a detriment to the company. It's a little thing called the NWO, which they struck gold with, and then they hesitated. They hesitated ending it on its peak, and then because they didn't do that, it just kept going, and it started to really dampen the product. And you get the sense that this is what it is. You need to realize when the story has peaked and there's an opportunity to go on the come down, to kind of ride that momentum and then move on to something new. But they realize that they have at the moment this cash cow, and they're hesitant to do it. to get rid of it until it will feel like it's petered out. And then just like as a viewer perspective, it probably won't affect them business wise, but just from a enjoyment or viewer perspective or looking back on this, it'll just feel like it's really like underwhelming. Like it didn't end on a big, like devastating or exciting moment. It just like petered out because they couldn't because
they ran out of being able to stretch it for people to care. So it's
because they stopped doing it because people stopped caring rather than they wanted to see what was going to happen next. Like they weren't anticipating the end, and then moving forward, it was more a case of, "Wow, we're so over this. Please stop doing it."
Mm-hmm. And then it doesn't mean as much. And then,
the whole story should really be. Again, I know we can just go play armchair booker and look at a lot of things in hindsight, but we said it, and we'll continue to fight to back this. Cody should have won at WrestleMania, and then this whole story should have pretty much been exactly the same. Because I don't think realistically the story itself has been bad. It's just the only thing that really hampers this story in its entirety is the fact that Roman's still holding that title. Because the whole rest of it is you have the bloodline implode. That's the story. Roman is pissed because he's won the title, and then the bloodline disintegrates around him.
Because he's lost the title, so he's lost his status as being the providing tribal chief. So now he's vulnerable, and people can challenge him to be the tribal chief and say that I would have been I wouldn't have lost at Mania, or I would have. We need new leadership now because you're not in charge, and then you can do the feud with everybody, and you can kind of keep that going as one of the secondary feuds that's going in WWE. And
you tell the whole story of like Roman. Like Roman does go with Solo, and he does challenge for the tag title still at whatever the Saudi show was it Night of Champions?
Night of Champions,
yeah. You still have that, and then the Usos get pissed about that because he's just desperate to win another title and reassert his dominance again. And so the Usos get pissed about that. They finally turn their back on him. You have the tag match at Money in the Bank. Maybe at that point, instead of going into this Jey Uso tribal combat thing, you have Solo get annoyed at Roman at that point, and then you maybe have the 4-way on this show instead. And then you have someone, whoever it is, Solo, Jey, whoever, beat Roman. Roman goes away for a little while. He comes back just with Heyman, going after different things, but in a different perspective. Like he's a chief without a tribe anymore. That would be the whole story about that. You can have his match with The Rock, and it wouldn't need a title involved in it. And at the same time, Cody's having good feuds, and he's being an organic, cool champion. He split both belts. There's a champion on SmackDown, and he's the champion on Raw. And
you don't need to bring the new championship in because you just have the championship. So there you go. You move on from that. The Brock Lesnar feud is Cody versus Brock, where his championship is in a lot of jeopardy because holy shit, it's Brock Lesnar. He wrecks everybody. Yeah. You do the one match, you know.
And over on the SmackDown side of things, you've got I don't know. You may have drafted Seth over to SmackDown instead, and he could be world champion over there and be having decent feuds with whoever's on that side. And then on the Raw side, while the Bloodline thing is going on SmackDown, you have Seth as the world champion. Whereas the Raw side of things, you have Cody as champion feuding with Brock, and then in the meantime, you have Judgment Day building themselves up, so Finn or Damian Priest can challenge Cody down the road. And then at the same time, you've got Gunther as your dominant Intercontinental champion, probably leading into potentially a Royal Rumble win and challenging Cody for the title at WrestleMania.
And then that offsets the fact that Cody defeated Gunther at the Royal Rumble. He ends up switching it over. Gunther beats Cody because that way Cody can kind of balance out. I beat you before, now you beat me. Oh, look at that. We need a rubber match. Instead we get, hey, Roman's just going to keep this going forward, and we're going to keep this same story. And
he's not, as Rob pointed out earlier, he's not booked for anything.
He's not at least advertised for them on any of these posters. Yeah. They are treating this, and they have a pretty decent track record so far. If Roman's on the poster, they tend to put him on there. But other people, they tend to just kind of ignore here and there. So the Fastlane one, for instance, right now has Bobby Lashley on there. Bobby Lashley's been doing fuck all. The only thing he's really done now has been now he's with the Street Profits, who may or may not have turned heel. If they turned heel, they got a better reaction than they were supposed to. So I don't know if that really is working out the way that they wanted it. But doesn't seem like he's going to be on for Payback. Then there's Superstar Spectacle, which I mean, it's a paid show, so they don't really need to sell tickets for it. So I don't know how that's going to work. But then you got the Fastlane show. I don't think they're going to waste Roman on that. And then you've got, what's it called? The Crown Jewel or whatever, most likely. And then Survivor Series, which Survivor Series could very easily just be not a like Roman Reigns defending the title situation. It could be War Games, or it could be champion versus champion, or it could be Raw versus SmackDown in an elimination match or something. And then look at that, you're at the end of the year, and now we're at the Royal Rumble. So we might end up having one more title defense from Roman for the whole rest of the year. We might end up having 2, maybe 3. I don't know, but it's not giving me a lot of vibes that they have a game plan in mind that it's going to revolve around like, man, you got to watch this. It's more so like, what can we fill our time with?
Yeah, like you're saying, like that, like saying, like how many title defenses got left. That this was his 4th title defense this year.
Yeah,
like and they're all all the other ones were bunched up in the first 3 or 4 months of the year. Like, this is the first time he defended it since WrestleMania.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's not something that
it's not fun. It was a flat note to end on as well. Like the crowd just didn't care at that point. Like they were just they're trying like fuck you Jimmy and whatever, but it's just like it's. I'm getting very used to these shows ending on a very deflating note.
Yeah, I could see that. Which of course is not how the way they want everybody to do. They want everybody to be like, oh my God, we can't wait to talk about the Jimmy Uso turn. But then you get people like us that are like, well, we saw it coming from a mile away and it makes no sense. And we're not necessarily interested in hearing 25 to 40 something minutes worth of screen time being like, to be perfectly honest. And I know that I've been saying this for quite a bit of different things recently. The whole like skipping things and not paying too much attention to a lot of, whether it's AEW or WWE, a lot of it I'm just like burned out on. But I don't feel like I need to watch the Jimmy Uso promo that we're going to get. Because I don't think that anything that he's going to say is going to be something that if I missed it, that it's going to change my opinion about what the story is or what's going forward. I can't imagine it being like, you know, say like when Shawn Michaels threw Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window, and then it became like, oh, Shawn's changing his character and he's going to be this type of guy and he's a heel and he's justifying the end of the Rockers. And, you know, like that's a movement. This just seems like it's going to be Jimmy going, now it's my turn to be the one that's upset with everybody. Let's wait until we could do Jimmy versus Jey at Payback. And then Jey will cut a promo and be like, how could you do that? You're my brother. And then, you know, skip forward a couple weeks, and then there we go. It's a match at Payback. Ted just put a super chat in there. Thank you, Ted. Says, Callum, when you go on a rant on how bad Michael Cole is.
I mean, I can't overly criticize him too much, but you know, he's trying to super sell the melodrama and like tell like, God damn you, Jimmy Uso, turning on your brother. I'm just disgusted about all this stuff. Like, you know, that's kind of what he does.
That's your brother.
Yeah, no, he did the same thing with like the Dominic and the Ray stuff. So it's actually probably one of the things he does best is try and add that emotive side to it. But yeah, that's like I'm never gonna like go like super crazy. You would say like, oh, he's the best thing going, and well, he probably is still the best commentator in WWE. But then again, I really don't think the commentary in WWE is very good. So,
well, we talk about
most shows now.
Yeah, we will talk about the whole switch up for that when we get to the hot tags. I have not been checking anything out about the press conference afterward, but I have seen one thing get posted on Twitter that I think is kind of interesting. Apparently, Bill Apter asked, why wasn't Austin Theory defending the United States title? Why was he in the Battle Royal? And Triple H responded in a passive-aggressive way of, because he was trying to win a Battle Royal. Which is like, you know what he's asking, motherfucker. Come on. Like, just, I would love, and I've said this a million times, I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm sure it's going to keep falling on deaf ears, you know, if anybody was actually listening, but I would just love some transparency. I would love to hear somebody in Triple H's position go, we thought it would be a better structure for the card if we didn't have any more matches, and we think that the United States title will draw more viewers on SmackDown and have more time. Just say that. Don't be like, hey, there's not a spot for everybody on the card. We all know, whatever. This is the right thing. Hey, stories never end in WWE, or whatever the hell he might have followed it up with. But I'm not seeing anything else really happening as far as people chattering about this press conference. So maybe there is something, maybe there isn't. But the general scope seems to be mostly people just saying the most generic stuff you possibly could. Like, what's next for LA Knight? Oh, well, I'm going to continue to win things. Yeah. And then maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not. If we are, we'll talk about it on the hot tags as well. Because, of course, we can go back and talk about anything that we did miss or any kind of other adjustments that they make on Monday Night Raw or on NXT or SmackDown.
One thing I saw that's like slightly interesting that I'm sure you'll love. Apparently, Bill Pritchard,
not Bruce,
not
yeah,
Bruce,
Bill.
obviously, also Bruce.
Bill from WrestleZone.
Asked Paul Heyman the question: what inning are we in with the Bloodline feud?
Oh, that's a good way of phrasing that.
Yeah, do you know what Paul said?
This isn't baseball.
He said bottom of the third.
Fucking hope not. What's the plan? Roman Reigns holds the title for 10 years? Because if it's bottom of the third, and this is the third year,
yeah,
that would be 7.
I can't wait till the 7th inning stretch. That'll be fun.
Well, that'll be that he spent an entire year where he doesn't defend the title.
Yeah, just stretching. It's just him coming to the ring and stretching. That's
He starts his entrance at the beginning of the one Royal Rumble match, and he ends it at the end of NXT Deadline that year. What's this? Heyman on Reigns. Edward Norton said that Marlon Brando titled the axis of how an actor approaches his craft, and to me, that's Roman Reigns. He's so completely redefined how we approach this industry. Really? Really?
Of course he's going to say that, isn't he? But like, you know, it's just bullshit. But like,
yeah,
that's what you spin when you're a promoter.
Well, that's SummerSlam. It's something that started off really good. I thought had some bumps along the way and ended with something that was disappointing and bland and doesn't have anything going forward that I'm interested in seeing. So could have been a lot better. There's nothing on my notes for positive or negatives for the end of the year awards. Unless maybe we end up like, something happens going forward where we're like, in retrospect, that one win really makes no sense at all. So now it's one of the worst wins of the year or something like that. But
Ronda and Shayna's got to be on the worst, surely, or some element.
I don't know. I don't remember if I have anything on that. Let me double check to see if I have anything on my worst of the year list for that. Currently, I can't think of any off the top of my head. So I do have 3 matches already for worst match of the year candidates. One of them, Shotzi versus Charlotte Flair from SmackDown March 10th.
Oh, that was bad, yeah.
One of them being the WrestleMania Women's Fatal 4-Way Tag Team Showcase match.
Oh, this was worse than that.
And then the other one being The Miz versus Shane McMahon / Snoop Dogg.
I mean, that was, yeah, but that's sort of like bad that I find funny. Like, there's nothing to find entertaining about this one. So,
yeah.
If those are, to be honest, like, I probably, I mean, in the last week or so, I've seen this and I've seen I've seen bits and pieces of the, like, Tiffany Stratton Thea Hale match, and I'm starting to, like, yeah, half and half, really. Can't really get too behind a match that someone falls over in the middle of a half Boston Crab, and that's the finish. I'd probably say that this is probably high up there for worst match of the year so far for me.
Ted's got another super chat. Would you kick Paul Heyman out of a moving car?
No.
I don't know is there a context for a joke there that I'm missing? If it's a literal sense, no, absolutely not. Paul Heyman's great.
Yeah, I think people, I don't know, because I think there's more people that are clued into the idea that really Triple H is, or even Vince McMahon isn't booking the Bloodline story. It's Paul and Roman that are booking it. So maybe it's kind of that aspect of it. It's like like Paul is actually the one that's booking the story, and now it's going into the ground a little bit. Now we should be turning his attention to him and saying that he's doing a bad job.
Maybe that's the case. Is that what you're thinking, Ted? Is that what the question is mostly? But
yeah.
I mean,
if not, no, because Paul Heyman's great. Like,
it's kind of the same sort of thing that happens with other TV shows and movies and stuff where, you know, actually a good thing that we can compare it to is The Simpsons. I would say favorite TV show of all time for the first 10 seasons. Everything after that, there's a couple seasons worth of, there's a couple good episodes here and there, but it's fallen short. By the time you get to like season 13, I think that there might be like 3 good episodes in the whole season. And then it just becomes utter garbage. And yeah, the institution of The Simpsons is bigger because of the fact that it's gone on for another 15 years since then. But I got a feeling that if you would just end it, it still would have continued to stand the test of time anyway, just because of how good it was. So just because this is going on for a longer time frame, quality and quantity don't always match up and overlap. I think that if the Bloodline story would have ended at WrestleMania, we would look back on that as being one of the absolute best title reigns, one of the absolute best stories and everything. And it finally had like a good conclusion. Now that it just continues, they, at the very least, seem to be thinking the longer it goes on, the more it'll mean when we end it. Well, the Simpsons series finale, would I even bother to watch it now? I haven't watched the show in a decade or more.
Yeah, you always wonder if you've missed the peak to do this.
Yeah.
You missed the perfect opportunity. Can't always just create another perfect opportunity for that to happen.
And to a certain extent, you can kind of be like, okay, well, you got to bet on yourself and you got to do this sort of thing where it's like you assume that you've got everything going forward and you can continue to make better successes and everything. Because if you don't do that, then you limit yourself to just shutting everything down. And then you have to start all over again and all. Yeah, I don't disagree with the idea that they would go, hey, this is really hot. Why would we end it right now? But if you don't know what you're doing going forward, then you run the risk of going too long. And, you know, that's what they're doing, I think. And yeah, Ted brings it up. He said, it's like Seinfeld. He said he ended it when it was white hot. Yeah, Seinfeld ended super duper funny. And I was having a discussion with somebody the other day about like, man, I really wish that there was more Seinfeld going on now. I don't know if we would have had the same reverence for Seinfeld if they would have gone on for years and years afterward, but at least It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is still around. So if anybody's a Seinfeld fan, you haven't checked out Always Sunny, definitely check that out. Dennis in particular. Fucking great. But that's SummerSlam. And going forward, we've got Payback. How are they going to build this into a show that is worthwhile? Are they going to actually take it in a direction that seems like it's heading in a direction, or are they just going to do some spillover and just say, well, who fucking cares? It's Payback. I got a feeling that's probably going to be the case, but we'll cover everything in the meantime going into that. That I think is the next pay-per-view in general as well. Actually it's All In is next. Yes. And then it's Payback, and then it's All Out on the next day, I think.
Yeah.
I think Payback and All Out are on the same weekend. And then coming not too long after that is the Superstar Spectacle thing, because that's the 8th of September following the September 2nd and 3rd. So we're going to get an onslaught of that, followed not too long afterward by NXT No Mercy on the 30th of September. And then October 7th is Fastlane. So we've got 6 pay-per-views coming up over the course of the next month and a half. A lot of pay-per-view point content coming your way. And we will be doing all our normal coverage for that. We'll be doing some other stuff in the meantime, trying to have a little bit of fun with the SummerSlam idea, continuing forward with the fan announce table of SummerSlam 1992. Colin hasn't seen that yet, so it's going to be a little Mrs. Smark edition. Still got to do a dark cast. We're going to do that Heat of the Moment tournament in one shot. Talk about the best heels that are in WWE and AEW right now. And then I don't know what else. I mean, we got a couple little empty spots throughout the rest of this year, but things are filling up pretty quickly with all these pay-per-views. There's a lot on my lineup that's just predictions, post show, But any other thoughts you got going on here before we wrap things out? Talk about the fantasy league.
Nothing too much else. I think this is probably one of definitely on the lower end of the Triple H run WWE pay-per-view so far. So yeah, just a bit of an underwhelming evening.
All right, so fantasy league wise, any updates you want to give us on that?
Yeah, so Tony won the predictions contest again.
Woohoo!
That's 3 in a row.
Fuck yeah.
So what does that mean? Well, first of all, the points wise. So following SummerSlam, Rob is dead last, as you would expect. 234 points. About 120 points further ahead is Tony with 348. And then I'm currently sitting on top with 364. But that's when things can now change in a very more significant way, thanks to Tony's victory. Tony with his victory doesn't only mean that he can... Well, there are things we're going to have to do. We'll probably have to do this all off screen because Rob's not here to suggest which ones that he's going to be... We'll be adding members to our team following this. So we'll be adding like one new member to each of our crews moving between now and Payback. So see what we end up selecting with that, because I think that I'm pretty sure that I'll have to double check, but I think that in terms of the predictions, you definitely won, but I need to figure out which one of us came second. If I came second, then we could do that part here. But
I think it depends on the time of the main event between you guys.
Oh, well, in which case I was miles ahead of what Rob suggested.
Because I think you both got one wrong prior to because we all had Charlotte, we all had Roman, which ended up being, we all got Charlotte wrong, we all got Roman right. But you guys had gotten Gable and Bálor wrong, and I think you guys got everything else right. So I think you're tied.
Rob both went with LA Knight to win Battle Royal.
Yeah, but he got Bálor wrong.
Yeah, I got Bálor wrong as well.
Oh, so then maybe it's different. I lost track. I don't know.
yeah. Rob got one more prediction right than I did.
So then Rob would be second place then for that.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll decide that stuff internally then. But what it does mean, because Tony's now at 3 wins, is not only does he get to, at some point between now and Payback, switch out 2 members of his team who he doesn't think are performing particularly well, and put them in 2 better people on top of the person that he's going to be drafting. He can also now select one of mine or Rob's unprotected draft picks, which are anyone outside of the top 5 picks of each of our team, and force us to get rid of them and replace them with someone else.
Which is like, it's a shame that obviously the whole point of the rule of protecting the picks is to protect them. But I'm like, damn, I can't take Cody Rhodes out of you. I will say you've got Dominic and you've got Roman Reigns and you've got Asuka and you've got Io Sky. So
no. As I say, I know I'm going to lose someone who's picked up a significant number of points recently. So that's
there's much more of a chance that happens than that I'm gonna waste that on taking Isla Dawn away from Rob.
It would be funny if you took Finn Balor, like one of the actual people that scored points from him. So
Finn Balor and Zoe Stark are like holding his team together right now. I just did that just to be a dick.
But yeah, I'm anticipating it. But we'll come to those decisions like internally, and I'll probably just put a little either post together, or you can check it out on WWEFantasyLeague.com, or I'll bring you up to speed on the next episode of the Smack Talk podcast, or over on the next episode of Hot Tags or something like that. I'll reconvene, do a little segment, say what happened, what's changed, how badly has Tony screwed my team over, that kind of thing. So stay tuned to that. You obviously see the latest updates at WWEFantasyLeague.com. You can check me out on Twitter at Wigmeister14, and the power rankings went up earlier on Saturday. So if you want to go back and see what it was like prior to SummerSlam, and then next week you'll see what it's like post SummerSlam.
All that stuff is happening. And then, of course, if you go on the link tree, you can see everything else on the different social media accounts and Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. Whatever. That's stupid as hell. I'm never going to call it X. the Letterboxd stuff, fanboysanonymous.com as well for the Blue Brand stuff. Everything happening in the world of geek culture outside of pro wrestling, you can find over there. Still not sure what the next thing is that I'm going to be doing that front. I'm way behind on catching up on my movies. I am going to see Haunted Mansion tomorrow. We were planning on trying to see Barbie and or Oppenheimer, but they are just booked entirely for 3 different movie theaters for every single time. So there are a couple of seats open for Haunted Mansion. So I'll check that off. Don't anticipate doing any kind of a review on that, but I still got to check out Barbie, still got to check out Oppenheimer, still got to check out Mission Impossible, still got to check out too many things. So if you do want more from Fanboys, patreon.com/fanboysanonymous. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel, follow on Facebook and Twitter, check out the Blueprint project that's happening over there. If you want more of that, you let me know, drop your thoughts in the comments, do all that good stuff. The more that you tell me that you like that stuff, the more that I'll do it. And of course, the more that you continue to stay tuned to Smark at Moment, the more you'll see from us. Next edition, it's going to be... Actually, what is our next main event? That is a blank week we have coming up right now. So I don't know what we're going to do. We're either going to do the fan announce table or we're going to do something else and do the fan announce table the week afterward. But if you have any suggestions, drop them in the comments below as well. And then we'll have another round of the hot tags and continue on going forward. So subscribe, like, follow, share, favorite, all that stuff. Haven't finished Secret Invasion yet, Peter. Haven't been hearing some great things about it, so I kind of put it off on the side, but I'm going to double check that for sure over the next couple days. Anyway, this has been another Smart Guy Moment, and we are being counted out.